When we talk about No Nut November, most of the focus tends to be on the physical challenge, the idea of proving discipline or self-mastery. But what's often overlooked is the mental load that comes with suppressing something so innate and biologically natural. Our brains are wired for sexual expression. It's part of our emotional and physical ecosystem. When you suddenly cut that off, especially without understanding why you're doing it or what you're hoping to gain, it can create tension, not just physically, but psychologically. You might start feeling more irritable, easily frustrated, or find your thoughts circling back to sex even more than usual. That's not a lack of control, that's biology trying to find balance. The real issue isn't whether abstaining is good or bad. It's about whether you're using this challenge as an opportunity to understand your relationship with your own desires, or if you're just trying to repress them. Repression and resilience are not the same thing. Resilience means learning to manage impulses with awareness and intention. Repression, on the other hand, means denying a natural part of yourself, and that can backfire emotionally. When we suppress too much, the mind compensates. It might lead to vivid sexual dreams, heightened tension, or even trouble concentrating. These are normal responses, but they're signs that your brain is pushing back against restriction. What I've found is that people who take on this challenge without self-reflection often end up in a more anxious state. They internalize guilt when they fail, as if sexuality itself is something shameful. But that mindset is what truly harms mental health, not the act of release, but the emotional weight of denial. The human brain doesn't respond well to guilt-based restraint. Instead, it thrives on purpose-driven behavior. So if you approach No Nut November with curiosity rather than self-punishment, you can actually learn a lot about your triggers, your stress patterns, and your emotional needs. This isn't just about avoiding a physical act. It's about exploring how your thoughts, emotions, and body communicate with one another. When you start to see that connection clearly, you realize that real control isn't about suppression at all. It's about understanding. When people commit to No Nut November, they often imagine it as a test of physical endurance or mental strength, a kind of detox from sexual habits. But what few realize is that our hormones don't just quietly cooperate with our goals. They adapt, react, and sometimes rebel. The body operates on a delicate balance between testosterone, dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol, all of which play roles in mood, energy, and motivation. When you suddenly change your sexual routine, that chemistry can shift in unexpected ways. Testosterone, for instance, may rise slightly during short periods of abstinence, which some studies link to increased alertness or confidence. But after that window, prolonged suppression can lead to a dip, leaving people feeling sluggish, foggy, or less motivated. The dopamine system, which regulates reward and pleasure, can also fluctuate. When sexual release is removed entirely, your brain may begin searching for other sources of stimulation, sometimes pushing you toward irritability, impulsive behaviors, or even excessive social media scrolling to fill the void. Many participants in this challenge report increased restlessness, trouble sleeping, and difficulty focusing, not because they lack self-control, but because their body is recalibrating. The idea that abstaining automatically boosts testosterone or mental clarity is more myth than science. In reality, hormonal and neurological balance depends on consistent, moderate habits, not extremes. It's similar to dieting. Cutting something out completely might feel powerful at first, but over time it can stress your system. The problem isn't the challenge itself, it's misunderstanding the body's signals. When you push too hard against your own biology, you may experience what feels like burnout. That's why some people actually end the month feeling worse than when they started. The real growth comes not from resisting your natural drive, but from observing it, learning how your energy, focus, and mood shift throughout the process. When you can listen to your body rather than fight it, you begin to realize that true strength isn't found in hormonal manipulation or forced restraint. It's found in harmony, understanding when to hold back and when to release. One of the most overlooked consequences of No Nut November is how it can quietly affect our relationships and emotional intimacy. When people take on this challenge, especially in relationships, there's often little discussion about what that abstinence actually means for both partners. Sexual connection isn't just a physical act, it's a form of communication, comfort, and bonding. When that's suddenly removed without context, partners can start to feel rejected or disconnected, even if the intention behind the challenge is self-improvement. Many people enter No Nut November with good intentions, wanting to reset habits, gain discipline, or refocus their energy. But when you're in a relationship, the decision doesn't just involve you. Your partner may interpret the sudden withdrawal of sexual intimacy as emotional distance or a sign of disinterest. This can lead to confusion, tension, or even resentment if not openly discussed. The irony is that what's meant to strengthen self-awareness can end up weakening relational connection if communication isn't prioritized. Intimacy extends far beyond the physical. It includes touch, vulnerability, and shared moments of closeness that nurture emotional safety. When those moments are limited, partners often compensate in different ways. Some may pull away, while others may feel a stronger need for reassurance. The challenge then isn't about abstaining itself, but about maintaining intimacy in other ways. Small gestures, like more physical affection, open conversations, or even humor can help preserve that connection during the challenge. For individuals who are single, the dynamic shifts inward. Without sexual outlets, emotions can sometimes surface more intensely. Loneliness, self-criticism, or frustration may become more pronounced. But these feelings are also opportunities. They reveal how deeply sexual energy intertwines with emotional well-being. Rather than ignoring or judging those emotions, acknowledging them with compassion allows for growth and deeper understanding. Ultimately, No Nut November can highlight just how essential honest communication and emotional connection are, both with others and with yourself. It's not about choosing between self-discipline and intimacy. It's about learning how both can coexist in a healthy, respectful balance. When it comes to No Nut November, the real lesson isn't found in total abstinence or complete indulgence. It's in finding the healthy middle ground. Challenges like this can be a great opportunity to pause and reflect on your relationship with sexual habits, but the goal should never be punishment or denial. It should be awareness. Abstaining for the sake of discipline can teach self-control, but doing it without self-understanding can lead to frustration or guilt. The healthiest approach is mindful moderation. Recognizing that balance, not extremity, is what sustains long-term well-being. Sexual energy is powerful, but it's also deeply tied to creativity, focus, and motivation. When you approach No Nut November with curiosity instead of rigidity, you start to see that the challenge isn't about suppressing desire. It's about learning to channel it. That energy can be redirected into fitness, art, learning, or even improving emotional intelligence. The key is not to shut your sexual self down, but to integrate it in a way that supports your overall growth. Moderation also helps break the cycle of guilt and overindulgence. When you label sexual release as bad, it creates shame. When you label abstinence as superior, it creates ego. Neither leads to balance. Mindful moderation means checking in with your body, asking what it truly needs, and understanding that pleasure and discipline are not enemies, they're partners in self-care. You don't have to choose one over the other. You just have to learn how to navigate both intentionally. At its core, this challenge can serve as a reset, not of your biology, but of your mindset. It's an invitation to build awareness around habits you may not have questioned before. It's not about proving control over your urges, but about understanding how those urges reflect your emotional state, stress level, and self-connection. When practiced with mindfulness, No Nut November can become less about restriction and more about reflection. Because real control isn't about denying who you are. It's about knowing yourself so well that every choice you make, whether it's restraint or release, comes from awareness, not avoidance.